I have a question that I want to ask, but I'm afraid to ask it because I'm sure that it's so hugely politically incorrect.
Fire away.
All right, I will. But this is just between the two of us.
Sure.
The madness that you just described, what do Muslims make of this when they watch all this, their populations growing in Africa or the Middle East? Is it, I mean, what comes across to us every so often, videos and so forth, there will be some imam denouncing the West as decadent. But if cultural decadence means anything,
right,
it means something pretty close to what you're describing.
Yeah. Experimenting on children and
yes,
yeah, like making everything sexual and yeah, of course. I mean, well, I always think that.
But what I'm worried about is that conservatives find themselves edging toward the position of saying, well, you know, those Muslims have a point.
Oh yeah, of course. You can hear that already in Europe. You can hear.
You can do.
Oh yeah, you can hear a little bit of it in America as well. Yes, it's not an attractive route to go down.
It is not.
I would warn people against it. But my gosh, you can see people doing it. There was a school in Birmingham in England earlier this year where lots of the parents protested outside the school because they didn't want their children to be taught about being gay in classes to teach children about sex education, basically. And I know quite a lot of people, including social conservatives, who said, I don't know, which side should we be on? And look, it's if a culture pretends, this is a consistent thing in The Strange Death of Europe and The Madness of Crowds, if a culture pretends that it is this cheap, ridiculous, highly sexualized, race-obsessed, totally evidently self-contradictory thing, then it's hardly surprising if it doesn't survive, and it doesn't particularly deserve to. My own view has always been that it's just absurd to think that this is the sum of what we've had. And that's the obscenity of this, really. And that's why I say at the end of The Madness of Crowds, I want young people in particular to get fast ways out of this, shortcuts out of this madness, how to just get that out of your brain and get onto the life you need to live. And one of the things I keep coming back to is that we should have been asking this question much more all along these years of saying, compared to what? So, if there is a Muslim protest outside the kids' primary school because they don't want them to learn about gay, find out what it is they do want. What it is that they do want. And if it is that they want Saudi mores on these sorts of things and punishments of, then that's as well to have that out, because then we can make a clear decision. But this is the case on all of them. When people tell us what a patriarchal and bigoted society we live in, and how terrible, and how there's a war on women, and a war on gays, and a war on trans, and a war on blacks, and a war on everybody and against everybody else, compared to when? Compared to what? Where's your place? Where's your nirvana? Because if you can't point to something that's at least semi-nirvana-like, then I see no reason why we should try this wholly new experiment. In reality, what the people do, if you say compared to what, they tend to, in your country as in mine, sort of reveal the foundations and say, Cuban healthcare is particularly good, and so on. Actually, literacy standards in communist Russia are very, very impressive. So they give away what they really want. Right. But that's the point, is if we keep saying compared to what, we know what we're running against. Right. And we know what they're trying to do. And at the moment, we're just in this fog of not realizing the seriousness and the specific nature of the attempts that are being made to totally undermine, rewrite, and destroy everything that I think people of any political direction in our countries would have thought of until recently as at least a pretty good deal.
I'm happy to say, but sorry to say, that you've given me just another very powerful image that... Okay. Douglas, back to The Strange Death of Europe. Again, it's been 2 years since you published the book. A couple of questions on the way things have been going since. I quote the book, though, to begin with. From the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648 up to the late 20th century, the nation-state had generally been regarded not only as the best guarantor of the constitutional order and liberal rights, but the ultimate guarantor of peace. Yet this certainty has also ended. Central European figures like Chancellor Kohl of Germany in 1996, as long ago as 1996, insisted that, and here you quote Kohl, "The nation state cannot solve the great problems of the 21st century," close quote. Okay, but Brexit and the recent European elections. Discuss.
Well, Brexit was an attempt by the British public, a majority of the British public, to reassert their belief in the nation state. I voted Brexit like most of my fellow countrymen, and I did so, I think, for the same reasons as most of them, which is that I thought we'd lost our understanding of how we were governed, and that this was absolutely central. It's one of the reasons why we've had a pretty peaceful country, Britain, for some hundreds of years. Parliament was elected by the people, was accountable to the people, and if it let you down, you chucked them out. And this wasn't so with the European Union, we felt. And I know lots of people who think very differently to that, but most of us in Britain felt we didn't know how we were governed. We didn't know how to get rid of them. We didn't know who they were once they were put there, and we didn't know who put them there. So the Brexit vote...
You'd say this is from the point of view of the argument in The Strange Death of Europe, this is a hopeful sign. The British public, at least, are not remaining entirely supine.
Well, except that, I mean, immigration was a huge part of the Brexit vote, because losing control of our borders was one part of the wider loss of control people were clearly objecting to.
Right.
But I say in the book, in advance of the Brexit vote, that just because you have national autonomy does not mean that you might not make the same ludicrous decisions. I mean, we were perfectly able, under the Blair government, to have an appallingly lax immigration policy, where 50,000 people were coming in every 6 weeks, which was the same number of Huguenots as came in the 1680s. So, you know, the numbers went up thanks to the Labour government, and if you got a Labour government like that again, then the numbers would go up like that again. And even a Conservative government's basically not been able to restrict the immigration very much in the UK. But yes, the Brexit vote was it was a shout of a reassertion that we would like to be governed in the way that we thought we were governed.
All right. Douglas.
So a lot to mull on over there with what Douglas was saying as Peter Robinson was asking that questions, and he basically was kind of saying, I want to ask you this question, don't exactly know, how to say it. It's probably going to be politically incorrect. And you saw Douglas come by basically said, bring it, baby, bring it. So the question is, what do the Muslims think? And what do we do with the increasing, ever-growing Muslim population that's coming into play, both in Great Britain, here in the United States of America, in our community? What do we do? And so I basically say that the difference is, if conservatives within the Republican Party, if they focus on the aspect of social and cultural norms, if they look at the social concerns that the community has, if they take a look at, we don't want to sexualize our children in school. That should be left up. Parents should have the right to decide what they want to teach their kids, what they don't want to teach their kids. It is not the job of the state. It's not the job of the teachers, not the job of the federal government. It's not the job of anybody else except parents or those people that are in charge of young children, period. That's it, folks. If someone has legal guardianship, it's up to them to decide in terms of these aspects of when and where you want to discuss what type of sexual subjects you want to talk about. Now, you want to have what they used to have before in school, health classes. You want to segregate those into boys and girls. You want to keep them together and just talk about normal biology. Leave it as normal biology, scientific biology, medical biology. That's it. No discussion of trans, no discussion of bisexualism, no discussion of agender, no discussion of gay or lesbians, nothing like that. Just pure biological driven data. And simply that. Now, if you want to have other classes, I perhaps may, you know what, I don't even know. I probably would be saying probably not. But if they were forcing you or they said that, then it would be parents who are allowed their children, just like you sign up a sheet, okay, fine. Now, one of the things you got to understand, folks, the conservative Republican part of the, let's say the conservative Republican tent under the Republican banner of the Republican Party, going to find a great ally within our Muslim community in terms of social, let's just say, social problems, social etiquette, social cultural norms. That's where an alliance could be formed to battle against some of these cultural deviances that we basically see springing up. Transgenderism, the use of a boy can go into a girl's bathroom and shower, or those kind of things. If we leave away the theocratical doctrines, we're not talking about the religious doctrines, only on the social aspects. And that would be a great team up with those within the Jewish faith, the Hindu faith, other faiths, even among atheists, among independents. There might even be some liberals there that would say, you know what? Yeah, that's going too far. I've got a daughter. I don't want, I may be liberal, but I'm not that liberal that I want my daughter showering with a man. Those kind of things. So that's where, this can come around. And that can happen on both sides of the pond, to form those alliances to fight those social battles together. And on some of the other things, we're just going to have to try to agree to disagree, I guess. Now, the other thing that, that Douglas brings about is that in his book, talking about the nation state. Well, and he says Brexit was one of the things that basically said to everybody, the nation state still must be there. Britain must still be British. Okay, Western Europe wants to have open borders. There's countries in Europe that don't care about borders. Okay, fine. But we want our borders to be borders. We don't want to be ruled by people we don't know how they got in the seat of power with the EU out in Brussels. Who gives a damn about those people there? Why are they making rules and regulations? It's the same way in America. We see, why is Washington, D.C. making federal rules and regulations that impact the entire country? But at the state level, at the local level, you take a look and go, that is so stupid. It shouldn't even apply to us. A one shoe fits all. And that's the problem that's occurring. That we, at least in the United States of America, we know who we elect. Unfortunately, when we elect them, they go to Washington, D.C., drink some of the water from the Potomac, and they change into who knows what, something that we didn't even recognize. Like, wait, we sent you over there to represent us, and now you're representing them because they gave you money for your re-election campaign? What the heck happened? That's what we're, so I can certainly understand the nation. There's nothing wrong with nationalism. I don't believe there is. It should be, I don't care if your country, if there's somebody in Britain, they should be looking at what is good for Britain first and the British citizens. Someone's in China, they should be looking out for what is good for China and the Chinese citizens. Somebody's in Canada, what's good for Canada, Canadian citizens? In America, what's good for United States citizens? America first, Britain first, Canada first, Australia first, Middle East first, whatever you want to call it, Japan, whatever country you're from, to be now. I'm talking about, now we're not talking about when you start making laws that govern in terms of and start crushing down on minorities. I'm not talking about that at all. What we're talking about is bring up the nation state to say what is best for the nation and what is best for its people. And that nation state, I think that's going to start to evolve even more, become even greater. And if some countries want to have their rules and their laws and say this is all we want and we don't want any others, hey, that's up to them. We may look at that and say, boy, you know what? They don't want that. Okay, fine. That's not our decision. It's that nation. And the nation are going to get there. Let them decide. Just worry about what's happening in your own freaking backyard, in your own community first, before you're worrying about something that's happening 20,000 miles across the globe that you have no control over anyways. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. And if you haven't done so already and we've earned your subscription, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You know what to do. Like, share, and follow us. Check out our other video links here and here. My final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right. Pretty much right. And when you're left, you guys are just wrong. Anyways, folks, until next time, take care and stay safe.